Wherever you go in Pripyat, you will probably gain a dog. These dogs are the descendants of the pets that were left behind during the mass evacuation in 1986. They are quite harmless and will follow you around, seemingly grateful of the company. As you can see, they are well fed and won't bother you for food. We are now approaching the iconic Ferris wheel in Pripyat. The Ferris wheel towers 24 meters above the amusement park and stands as a reminder of better days in the city. It was constructed ready for the May Day celebrations, which never happened. So, along with the other attractions in the park, it was never used. Empty seats appear to be waiting for the next customer. This will be familiar to some, especially those who play video games, as it has been featured in many of those. The park was opened temporarily on the morning of the evacuation as a means to try and avert attention from the disaster that was happening a short distance away. None of the attractions were ready to be used, but some people did visit. The park was used as a landing strip for helicopters that were clearing the nuclear waste. Liquidators would wash the helicopters down here. As a result, some of the highest readings of nuclear waste can be found around the park. The concrete is safe, but high readings can be found in the surrounding undergrowth and directly under the Ferris wheel. Other attractions in the park have become almost unrecognizable. This is a roundabout. These are swing boats. And this is the bumper cars, which were based on a tricycle chassis. We will leave the center of Pripyat now and head out to the surrounding areas, but before we go, a quick visit to the most radioactive item in Pripyat. Known as the claw, it was used to clear the waste from the top of the reactor. It's not advisable to linger too long. At 150 meters high and around 750 meters long, the Duga radar stood hidden in plain sight from 1976 until the time of the nuclear disaster. It is about 10 kilometers south of the power plant and was constructed at the same time. Amateur radio operators reported a strange tapping sound coming from the direction of the Soviet Union. This resulted in the nickname the Russian Woodpecker. It became such a problem that woodpecker blockers were produced to cancel the signal out. The Western world had no idea that this radar existed until the time of the nuclear disaster. Several theories emerged as to the purpose of the Duga radar. One being that it was a mind control system. In fact, it was an early warning system for missiles heading for the Soviet Union. They could never have imagined that the nuclear threat would come from the opposite direction. The aerials for the radar ran along this corridor. Then information was fed to the control panels. We will now move away from here and venture out into one of the many abandoned villages. We are now in the village of Krasen, in front of the Orthodox Church of St. Michael. A total of 188 villages were abandoned after the nuclear disaster, plus countless farms. The Church of St. Michael has been regularly maintained for the last 36 years, and still holds a service once a year. Built in 1800, this is one of only 2 churches that survive within the exclusion zone. It's a strange and eerie feeling being here on your own. Outside, you will find all the buildings and businesses associated with a small village, houses, shops, a post office, a garage and a school, all hidden in the forest that has grown around it. Even though these buildings haven't been inhabited for 36 years, you still feel as though you are intruding on someone's property or expect a voice to call out and say hello. Inside the school, you can see the tiny particles of radioactive dust that is being picked up by the camera's sensor. This is why we had to be careful all the time while in the exclusion zone. We must head back now as it's an hour-and-a-half drive along a very bumpy dirt track. We are now at a section of the railway. This railway still carries workers in and out of the nuclear power plant on a daily basis while they carry on dismantling the damaged reactor. Strange complexes lay hidden amongst the trees. Rolling stock lie in a tangled heap by the side of the tracks. They have been stripped of all valuable metals and left here to rot. The dockland area also lays forgotten and abandoned. Huge ships once graced this dock carrying all kinds of goods and food. Now wrecks are scattered around and most of the cranes have been removed or have rotted away. Our time in the exclusion zone has now come to an end. 4 days is not enough as we left many places unexplored. However, the haunting atmosphere of this huge area will stay with us for a long time, and I'm very happy to have spent time there and learn about the history and the unfortunate tragedy that will mark this place forever. On the 24th of February 2022, Russian forces invaded Ukraine in an escalation of the conflict that has been on the eastern edge of Ukraine since 2014. The first area to fall was the Chernobyl Exclusion Zone. 211 hostages were held within the power plant for several weeks. They have now been released and the Russian forces have withdrawn from the zone.